Your Excellency, distinguished invitees, we have had a short film introduction, and that has helped us to appreciate the several focal points that are to be found along the way, all of which adds to the expression future ready. Are we? That's what this forum is about. Are we? And how does one get there? Well, interestingly, the National Human Resources Development Council, known by the initials NHRDC, have joined hands on this occasion, as you likely are well aware, with the International Chamber of Commerce Sri Lanka, ICCSL, and are focusing on something which is rather intriguing. And there it refers to what has been going on for a while in Germany, and whether there is the possibility of borrowing, adapting, and setting up similar programs over here. So that will be discussed at great length today. But what is important perhaps also to appreciate is something which is tried and tested is just so. Tried and tested. So again, we'd like to invite your close attention and eager participation as well, since there are opportunities to learn from this whole enterprise. But of course, we have our customary practice, a ceremonial one, that of lighting the oil lamp, for which we shall invite several people here present right now. Of course, the Ambassador for Germany, Mr. Jörn Rode, the Chairman of NHRDC, Mr. Dinesh Virakodi, Ms. Shivani Hegde, Managing Director, Nestle Lanka PLC, who's one of the panelists, as would also be Professor Kapila Pereira, Vice Chancellor, University of Moratuwa, Dr. Nihal De Silva, CEO and Chairman, International Institute of Health Science, Ms. Dirukshi Kurukula Surya, General Manager for Human Resources at Timor, Lanka, Mr. Anthony Shanil Fernando, the Secretary and Director of ICC Sri Lanka, Dr. Chandra Amuldenia, the Council Member of NHRDC, and Mr. UG Ratnasiri, Additional Secretary, Ministry of National Policies and Economic Affairs, and other secretaries from government if they're here. So we proceed with the lighting of the lamp. So, the ceremonial lamp duly illumined. May I suggest, it's only a suggestion, if you do have mobile devices that are likely to intrude on the comfort of others during the formality of this session, now might be an opportune time to have them rendered silent or preferably switched off. And of course, our focus now shifts again to why we're here. And we're here because of the essence of the lyric of the national anthem. The anthem.
Sri Lanka Mata, Ab Sri Lanka, Namo, 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 Namo Mata, Ab Sri
So we urge everyone to be comfortably seated. The national anthem has the lyric referring to several things. Pubuduva, Jnana, Veena, Vidya, Shakti, Aloka. All of that has to do with this whole enterprise about harnessing the skills that are available amongst our people so that you can move forward. Yamu Yamu Vinopama. Well, it seems like it's already a bit too late. 70 years it has been since independence from British rule, and are we getting there? Yamu Yamu Vinopama. So anyway, whatever it is, we are in a learning curve, and that's what we are here for. The introductory remarks and words of welcome will be addressed to this audience by the Secretary to the ICCSL, himself an alumnus of the Law College in Sri Lanka, and his specialty has been commercial law. And more, he's also an alumnus of the University of London, where he completed his postgraduate studies on a Commonwealth scholarship, and also with the University of Texas and the University of Prince Edward Island, Canada. Interestingly, he has his MBA from the Postgraduate Institute of Management of the University of Sri Jawaharlal, and a specialty there has been the facilitation of trade and transport. He's a certified trainer with recognition by the Commonwealth Association for Corporate Governance in London, and trained by UNESCAP as a trainer's trainer, and followed a course in international contracts and arbitration at the ICC Academy in Paris. Shanil is a task force member of the ICC Commission on Arbitration. And he serves in many capacities, but importantly and relevant here is, of course, as I've mentioned, he served as a secretary of the ICCSL. He's a senior partner of Anton Fernando Associates law firm and chairman of Asian Logistics Park Private Limited, in addition to holding several senior posts in different organizations. So without further ado, we invite your attention as Anthony Shanil Fernando speaks.
Your Excellency, John Road, Ambassador for the Germany in Sri Lanka, Mr. Dinesh Veerakodi, Chairman, National Human Resources Development Council, and also the Chairman of the International Chamber of Commerce, Sri Lanka, Directors of NHRDC, and my fellow council members of the ICC, distinguished guests, invitees, Ayubowan, and good morning. It is with great pleasure that I am welcoming the distinguished gathering to a forum to listen to the internationally recognized German dual vocational training system. With the exemplary leadership of Dinesh Veerakodi, our chairman ICC, the emphasis on capacity building on the Sri Lankan human resources have been identified as one of the key sectors. The ICC will promote for the business and industry in our country. It was Mr. Dinesh Veerakodi's idea, who is entrusted as the chairman of the NHRDC, to take Sri Lankan workforce to the next level and to enhance and empower the younger generation with proper vocational training skills. To develop Sri Lanka's human resources sector to meet the challenges in the future needs of the country. Hence, the International Chamber of Commerce, together with the NHRDC, is jointly hosting this event. In a little while, His Excellency, the Ambassador, will be presenting to you on the German vocational training system. It's a dual training system that is recognized internationally due to the combination of training with real work environment. Trainees who undertake this dual system spend part of their time at a vocational college and another part at companies, ensuring the industrial training exposure to get the required skills and experience. The primary characteristics of this dual system is a cooperation between the organizations on one hand and the publicly funded vocational colleges on the other. The National Apprentice and Industrial Training Authority, NITA, follows the same principle of training while following theoretical learning, which provides the framework for better employable recruits. The Ceylon German Training Technical Institute is a classic example of similar training on German cooperation towards Sri Lanka in the past. I would request the panel to deliberate and consider ways and means to recommend to train our female workforce to professional welders, mechanics, electricians, and heavy vehicle drivers, even carpenters and masons, because the female professionals have really achieved at the top end, not at the middle and the lower end. In the past, the Mahapala training was the main supplier of heavy vehicle drivers, which is in severe shortage today. There is a severe shortage of skills presently in the transportation, construction, and the tourism industry. Please also consider recommending to the government to waive off the statutory payments on the recruitments of retired personnel and housewives who can work on part-time basis to fulfill the labor resources gap we presently have in Sri Lanka. If these rules are relaxed, some of the idling skills can be absorbed into the system. The part-time system that is practiced in Europe is one of the best ways to acquire skilled group of employees who will be an asset and key drivers in an organization with reduced overheads. ICC also has a training arm which does skills development in international trade and to the shipping industry. I take this opportunity to mention that ICC will facilitate any request from its members on training. Every year, ICC brings foreign trainers to conduct seminars and workshops in Sri Lanka, especially in the trade facilitation and shipping industry. We will be conducting a seminar on the Singapore Free Trade Agreement on the 9th March, and ICC Singapore, ICC Sri Lanka and ICC Singapore and the Singapore Business Federation will be the strategic partner for the roadshow of the Colombo Stock Exchange on the 2nd March in Singapore. We request this forum and invitees to join ICC to achieve your corporate vision and objectives. Thank you.
Thank you too, Shanil, for underscoring, on the one hand, the need for training and the opportunities that are there. Which brings us now to our keynote, which will be sounded by His Excellency the Ambassador for Germany. Interestingly, he has had quite a bit of exposure to Asian cultures by virtue of him at one time serving at the South Asia desk at the Foreign Ministry in Germany, and of course he has served in previous appointments in Jakarta as well as India before serving here a couple of years ago was when he was appointed as ambassador to Sri Lanka. It's with much pleasure that we invite our keynote speaker, Jörn Rode.
So, Mr. Dinesh, fellow members of the ICC, panelists, dear guests, I'm very happy to be here today to talk about the vocational training system in Germany, a model for other countries. I would put a question mark on it, because it's always difficult to fully transfer one system into the other. And I think I brought 3 slides. Maybe you can put on the first one to just give you an idea about the basic numbers. The system evolved over the centuries. It started with the medieval guilds of carpenters. The system as we have it today is basically about 100 years old, because there As the speaker said before, it's not only the companies, it's the state with vocational schools, but who bears a lot of the costs. And as it said, we have about 1.3 million trainees at any time in the system in 326 recognized trades. And I will talk about that later. Not every German company has apprentices, about 20%. You know, companies like Bosch or Mercedes would have thousands of apprentices. Other companies have, you know, they have only 6 employees or 1 or 2 apprentices. So in order to have an apprentice, you have to be checked, you have to be part of the system, you have to abide by a curricula. So but the system is basically covering all over Germany, medium-sized companies, small companies, and majors. And the apprentices normally spend 2/3 of the 3 years apprenticeship in school, in the company, and 1/3 in the vocational school. In the company, of course, they learn the practical parts of their trade. When you are a bricklayer or a butcher or a baker, you learn the trade. In the school, you learn social skills. Everybody learns English. Everybody learns accountancy. So one day you might want to set up your own business. So right from the start, average age when you start your apprenticeship, I would say, is about 17, 18. You are equipped with social skills that you, if you want, you might set up your own companies at one point in your life. And I have put also numbers here on the cost, because it costs the company to have an infrastructure, especially a small company. On the other hand, and that is one of the great features of our system, the trainees do not get a full salary. They during their 3-year apprenticeship, they start, what I would say, with a stipend, and then it gradually increases over the 3 years, and at the end of the apprenticeship, it reaches about 2/3 of a normal salary. So for the companies, it's also a cheap employee. And they can see over the 3 years whether this person, after the end of the apprenticeship, might fit into their company. So I would say it's a win-win for both sides. The state provides all the costs for the vocational schools. These are costs, for sure. But at the same time, all sectors of the young people are skilled. It's not only the academic skills which are promoted, it's especially the non-academic part of the population which is skilled. And I didn't put it here. There's also an upward mobility. Once you, let's say after 3 years of your apprenticeship, you are a bricklayer. If you are 3 years in the trade, you can move up to a master bricklayer. This means more courses, more qualified accountancy, English, to really be fit to set up your own company, to work abroad. So this is combined also, what I would say, you can't put this in writing real, with a social recognition. A master carpenter, a master cabinet maker in Germany is, I would say, the social recognition in society is as high as any master's degree you have from a university. So it was funny. Last year we had an ambassadors conference here in Colombo of all German ambassadors posted in the Indian Ocean, and one of my colleagues, the Director General, asked who has done an apprenticeship course, and about 25% of the ambassadors raised their hands. They were apprentices before. You see, it's not on the one hand purely academic and then only purely the trades. So there is a high also recognition on both sides, and that explains, and maybe you can put on the slide on the youth unemployment rates. This is a slide on the education qualification of the apprentices. As you can see, 43% or now have A levels. This is about the range in Germany of people who graduate every year with an A level. And then it used to be when I was young, which is a long time ago, that maybe 20% of people would have an A level and 60-70% would have grade 9 and grade 10, and they would normally be the source of apprentices. But now more and more people, like in every country in the world, they have A levels, and that means also the number of apprentices who have already an A level is increasing. Maybe you can put on the next slide on youth unemployment. You can see these are the rates of youth unemployment, people between 16 and 24 in selected developed countries. In the two countries who have or the three countries who have a apprenticeship system, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, we have one of the lowest youth unemployment levels. And I think this has to do with the system. Because in Germany, the youth unemployment now is about 7.5%. That after 3 years of apprenticeship, you are readily employable. The company knows what you can do, whether you fit, and even if the company has to let you go because they do not need as much people, your certificate means you're recognized all over Germany, because every company in Germany knows what the curricula is, because it's a recognized curricula, and you can start everywhere. So this is one of the main features, but that is not only a feature for the non-academic part. Even I brought our apprentice from the Foreign Office with me, Mrs. Martens. She studies at a university. All university students in Germany do apprenticeships, short-term, 3 to 5 months, often in companies, or as it is here the case in the Foreign Office. So most academic graduates in Germany, exceptions are the rule. From the rule are of course also happening, especially in the engineering and science features, do apprenticeships. They are also readily employable. When I was serving in India before, I had a lot to do with also the vocational training system. I often heard the figure from Indian counterparts, but also from German companies. 80% of Indian graduates from universities are not readily employable because they leave the universities with not enough practical skills. And I would say this is also different in Germany. I will talk, besides the features of the German system, but also what makes it successful. I will also speak about the challenges we face at the moment. I will talk at the end also, which was already mentioned, what does Germany do in Sri Lanka to cooperate on that matter. German tech was already mentioned, a long-standing example of successful cooperation. But let me talk a bit at the beginning about the feature of our system. And I would call it, and this is the result you can see in the low unemployment numbers. One super important feature is that it is a living organism. It's not a static thing. The social partners in the system, whether it's the German chambers of commerce in every city, in every province, the unions, the state, and experts, they are sitting together. And I mentioned the 326 trades at the beginning, which are recognized, and constantly update the curricula. So every chamber of commerce in every city and every province, they say, and I give you an example, 20 years ago, you had the profession of an auto mechanic. Now it's called a mechatronic. So in the last 20 years, you update the curricula, the industry says, these guys who are coming from the vocational school, or we need new contents for the curricula. So let's say between 2007 and 2017, about 135 trades of the 326 have been updated. Whole curricula have been modernized and changed. New trades emerge. For example, now in Germany you have a 3-year course becoming an e-commerce clerk. That didn't exist 20 years ago. Some trades vanish. In 1998, for example, the trade of an umbrella maker in Germany vanished because you produce umbrellas much cheaper in Asia, for example. You can still make umbrellas in Germany. Nobody prevents you from being an umbrella maker, but you cannot study it anymore at a vocational school or in a company. It's your private passion, maybe. Or let's take the profession, 100 years ago, a cooper, or I call them the barrel makers, is not a trade anymore in Germany because it's now all done industrially. So that's what I mean with a living system, that the chambers of commerce, the unions, and also we have a federal institute for vocational training, they see where's the needs. But the main thing is the industry. The industry says we don't need that anymore. We need a new profession, or we need to update it. And when I was preparing here, I was looking at, last year, for example, there were 10 professions updated. Air travel consultant, the industry is changing so fast with the internet. So Germans like to travel. So this profession has to be updated. Even in Germany, a waiter in a restaurant, this is a 3-year course. You don't, not all waiters in Germany are trained waiters. I would say 70% are students who work out, but in the 5-star hotels and restaurants, you have for sure trained waiters for 3 years. And as I said, they don't only learn how to, put a plate on the table, but they learn everything about, wines and also accountancy. Or you have trades like very old trades, shoemaker, which are also still, updated, maybe the use of computers. So again, the living organism is the main thing, and the involvement, the active involvement of industry is key to its success. The state provides the financing of the schools, the vocational schools, where you go normally 2 days a week, 8 hours, as I said, where you learn social skills, accounting, which is, that your welder, when he comes to your house to fix your, or the sanitary person to fix your pipes, he writes you the bill afterwards. And I think this is important. And for the people, it's also important. It teaches them also lifelong learning. You don't stop learning once you finish school. You continue to learn. And I think that contributes greatly to the low unemployment rates in Germany. As I said, also to the high social recognition. Often when I was serving in Asia, like Sri Lanka, you come from the Anglo-Saxon system. Maybe you can discuss it also later at the panel. I find often the difference between blue and white collar is deeper than in Germany. In Germany, a blue collar worker has a high social recognition because he has a trade, he is skilled, and he might earn more than an academic in some cases. And the close partnership between the government and the business community guarantees that the system is always up to date. The people who leave the system are trained on machines, on equipment, which is the latest in industry. Of course, there are differences in quality standards. Not every small company can guarantee what Bosch has, for example, when you become a mechatronic. But generally, it's the same standards because the chambers of commerce guarantee that, and they will only allow companies to hire apprentices if there are minimum standards. Another important thing is at vocational schools, a lot of the teachers have an industry background. So my own brother-in-law used to be a teacher at a vocational school. He was a trained photographer, so he knew the industry. And when he taught his students, he knows what the requirements were. And also, teachers are well paid in Germany. Only with good teachers you can produce good students, I would argue. And salaries for teachers, when I compare it, and I served in Canada and the US, I would say net 30% higher, and that also goes for Austria and France. So you have to pay good salaries, and I think this is sometimes also a challenge here in Sri Lanka. Then what I said also at the beginning, that the language, we live in a more and more international society, whether it's Sri Lanka or Germany, English is important, because in the EU you have people coming from all other countries, and you can only, especially a country like Germany, you can survive with skills, because Germany doesn't have any natural resources. The only resource we have is our people. So skilling is, I would say, the key to success, and that is not only true for the academic part, that goes for all levels of society. Yes, as I said, on the vocational training, the usual line is of work that you spend 3 days in a company, 2 days in the school, and that's why we have every year we have about 560,000 intakes into the system. The challenges we face are also there in Germany. Most when people do an A-level in Germany, a lot of the parents, of course, want the kids to study, and more people do study, and at the same time the jobs change very much. In a knowledge-based society, you need higher qualifications. We have a lot of immigration into Germany, so sometimes and in some trades which are not very attractive because the salaries are too low. For example, the big difference in a starting salary, let's say in the construction trades, because it's streamers, the starting salaries for apprentices are quite high. I would say 900 euros you start. When you become a hairdresser or a butcher or a baker, it's very low, 300. And then you have times to work, especially, let's say, in the bakery trade, in the morning and the night, which is not very attractive. So the new government in Germany has now decided they will bring in also some kind of minimum stipend for the apprenticeship system, because we have a problem with high rates of not finishing the apprenticeship in certain trades. And one of the trades I mentioned is, for example, bakery, or especially in the hospitality business, because generally the salaries in industry are much higher than in hospitality. So you need to make the trades more attractive, and I think one way to do that is to provide higher salaries or stipends at the beginning. And sometimes a problem is also a mismatch, whether it's regionally or also with education. A lot of employers in Germany complain that people who come from schools with grade 9 qualification do not know basic math anymore. And that is a problem, that in some schools the education levels have fallen, and it's very difficult for the employers to basically make up for that, and there's a challenge. So last year we had, I think, some people who were left out of the system, about 50,000, couldn't find a place in the apprenticeship system because the employer said, you don't fulfill the minimum standards, and these are basically unskilled people. Fortunately, it's a very low rate in Germany. Most people are in one way or another skilled, but still, when you have about 15% each year of all intake, or 10% unskilled in a knowledge-based society, that creates a problem. So I think there's from the state system, we need to make more efforts to improve the basic skills of people so that they are presentable to employers. On the other hand, employers have the task to provide attractive environment also when it comes to basic salary. And because with an unemployment rate in Germany currently at about, to OECD standards, lower than 4%, there's a high competition for people, and especially young people, since we have a demographic problem and you need to do something to get qualified people. And also a lot of people, of course, probably like in most countries, for male graduates, to become a mechatronic is more attractive to become a waiter. It's same in Germany. Nobody wants to become a baker, because who wants to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning? So it's from both sides. And as I said, one of the main challenges for our system is that I would say the academization of the system happens also in Germany. More people want to study. And you have to make the trades remain attractive. They still are. I mean, we have 1.5 million, but there are challenges, and some of it I think can be realized through better pay. Then, when it comes to exporting the system, most German politicians go around and then they are greeted and said, something like the German tech, great, we need 10 more German techs, or we need to import the system also. And as I tried to explain, this is not easy to do, because every country has different social traditions. Even 10 years ago in the UK doesn't have the same chamber network as in Germany, where chambers act also in a way as chambers, or basically they assume a quasi-official role when your final graduation as apprenticeship is not before a state body, it's before the local chamber of commerce, because they have been equipped by the state with the permission to take up, or that you have your final graduation there. There is, of course, also people from the vocational school, but it's basically the local chamber in Germany who makes you pass your apprenticeship, because they control the curricula. And in most other countries, chambers do not have that capacity or that system. So I would rather say it's very important that if we all face the challenge of skilling, how to best adapt elements of the system into your country and make it compatible with your traditions. And that means analyzing conditions in every country, objectives, institutional, cultural, curricular, and pedagogical requirements, determining the strategic objectives, engaging the stakeholders in the country, reaching agreement on cooperation between the ex and importing country, and then planning, implementation, and action. Then you have different legal regulations, you have a different institutional framework that has to be thought of. Now, when it comes to Sri Lanka, it was already mentioned, Germany is active in Sri Lanka on that topic for a long time. The most prominent example is German Tech and Muratuva. I've been there twice. There's, and I would say it's still a model example, because 30 years after the official cooperation ended, Muratuva German Tech is still producing, and I think it's highly recognized in the industry. But they are, of course, challenges. Then I think Germany also set up some decades ago a railway institute, a hospitality and training center, where recently some people from the tourism industry came to me because it fall a bit into dilapidation. So these are, you have positive and you have negative examples. In the recent past, Germany has renewed its commitment, and this is one of our prime focuses now of our development cooperation, is vocational training. After the end of the conflict in the north, we established another vocational training center in Kilinochi 2 years ago. They take this year, no, last September, they went into their second year. They took on 400 graduates. This center also has a practical, I would say, it's reconciliation part of its mission. It's not only training people, it's training people from all parts of the country. So it's Tamils, Muslims, Sinhalese students, but also important, there's a high proportion of women. When you go to German Tech, there's 95% males. When you go to Kilinochi, there's 25% women. And we continue to extend our investment and cooperation. We are now, together with the government, building another vocational training center in Matara in the south. We just had an evaluation mission from Germany here to see what are the trades which are needed most in the south. And I think I've heard from preliminary findings that, for example, health sector, because more and more tourism, you know, that you need health professionals, technicians, hospitality, of course, will be some part. So, and the government has in its last budget pledged to erect or to establish 10 more vocational training centers like German Tech, Kilinochi throughout the country. And they expect us to be a partner in that. I'm quite sure we do not have the financial means to finance all of them, but I'm sure there will be technical cooperation in the sense that we can provide, support for the curricula. And I think it's the right way. Sri Lanka has a big skilling challenge. You know yourself better than me. 200,000 graduates leave with A level every year, and only 25,000 find a place at the university. 30,000 study abroad. What happens to the rest? Do they all, the males, do they become tuk-tuk drivers? I think it's a big waste for the country. So these technical training institutes can absorb some of them. Of course, the university places have to be expanded also. A big challenge is that these institutes, and then I come back again at an institutional change. You can only produce good students when you have good teachers. How is the salary in the public sector for a teacher at a vocational school? I know, for example, that is part of the continued success of German Tech, that they have some flexibility in providing courses for industry where German Tech can have some extra income to prop up the salary of teachers, because normally public sector salaries are not competitive, I would say. You know, when you work at a private company, good people probably earn much more there. So that is also the case in Germany, but the gap is not as big, maybe 15%, whereas in the school you have a more regular work pattern maybe, but our teachers do not leave in droves, the good ones, from the vocational schools into the industry. So I think this has to be thought very thoroughly when exporting part of the system. All ideas will basically stop if the state cannot provide attractive salaries in the schools, and if the industry and state do not work effectively together. Over and over, and maybe you discuss it later on the panel, what we have, and Mr. Rukshi from DIMO is here. DIMO provides, and I know has a training center for mechatronics, you know, but it's a totally private run system. It's an island solution. How can you provide more than an island solution. And there, when I come from our system, is the effective cooperation between public bodies and the industry, and both profit from each other. And there has to be a sustainable system, that the vocational schools have some flexibility with the teachers, that they can decide that they're not in a rigid public system. No, they are still in the public system, but that they can provide their faculty with attractive salaries, and also that the industry has a living interaction with the schools, so that the schools do not teach things which are totally outdated for industry. And I think this is the main factor of success, which makes the German system up to date, and the industry knows that in the schools they are taught subjects which are relevant to the industry, and that they are also taught social skills, which of course the industry will not teach. And I think these elements, for example, we try to now actively employ in Kilinochi and soon in Matera. The whole education in Kilinochi is in English. So if you employ one of the Kilinochi graduates in the future, the first one will graduate, I think, when they start in 2016 and 2019-20, they will be conversant in English. What they also are heavily involved in, that a lot of them during their apprenticeship, they don't stay all the time in Kilinochi. A large part of their education is done in private sector companies, whether it's demo or hotels, depends on the trade. So these people, I would also argue, are readily employable. You don't need 1.5 years to make them fit for your company. You know, of course, every company has its certain features. Maybe they only need 1 month, and I think this is the great advantage of that system. And I think the more elements you can import from that tested system, the better it is for Sri Lanka, and the lower the skill challenge will be for Sri Lanka. As I said, there are many fronts. Also in Germany, we have to constant work on, and I would like to end saying it's not a static system, it's a living organism, and every stakeholder has constantly to work on updating, because the world is changing so fast, the industrial environment, the automation. But in that sense, so far, Germany has done quite well. We are still having a 25% of share in manufacturing, where most countries have a lot of developed countries have lost a lot of manufacturing to countries like China. Germany survived because we always skilled the people. We always stayed at the top end. And it's not only cars, it goes for a lot of industries. You know, you cannot survive with a run-of-the-mill products. You need top products, and for top products you need top people on all levels. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you too, Ambassador, for a very forthright and even frank presentation that helps us to appreciate the vibrant mix, the compound that will breed skilled people. And you've also helped us to appreciate the difference there is between that which is stultified and that which is adaptable. And unless there's adaptability, where's the progress? So the challenges also that are faced in Germany were dealt with, and that is good. Now we have an opportunity to focus on the screen. There are two presentations, brief ones. One is to help everyone here appreciate ICCSL and what they are engaged in. And we also have a presentation by Career Me, who is one of the sponsors. Pay heed.
Today, companies in Sri Lanka are competing in a global economic environment. Technological advances are altering industries, businesses, and jobs at an unprecedented scale. To keep up, we need workers who can drive productivity and spark innovation. Finding them isn't easy. Manufacturing, construction, tourism and hospitality, and service industries are hardest hit with over 500,000 unfilled job vacancies. Yet, training institutions are struggling to attract youth. National dropout rate reaching staggering 22%, with over 20% youth unemployment in the country not looking good. There is a huge skills mismatch between the education system and the labour market, undermining Sri Lanka's growth ambitions. At the same time, young people are struggling too, feeling lost from school to work. Most not receiving the guidance needed to transition into the workforce. How can we help students find a path to success while meeting employer needs at the same time? We have a business-led approach to career readiness that focuses on connecting employers with students. Career Me, Sri Lanka's only professional career guidance service, in technical partnership with Grow Careers Australia, is uniquely positioned to help employers build relationships with young people and to make sure that it is a good fit for everyone.
Good fit for everyone. Well, now that paves the way to the panel discussion, and I'll be happy to introduce the panel by name, even as the furniture is being prepared on the platform. So this is not in any particular order, but we'll start with one of the ladies. So we have Dirukshi Kurukulasuriya, herself an attorney at law with a specialty in human resources development, and she has over 18 years of experience in the managerial realm, and during her 10 years at DMO, that's Diesel and Motor Engineering PLC, she has been instrumental in driving human resources management of the organization to great heights, and the ambassador also alluded to some of that. Next in the panel, Dr. Nihal De Silva. He's from the realm of medicine and has served on the faculty of 4 foreign universities, including Stanford in California and elsewhere. But relevant to this particular event, he's a co-founder of the International Institute of Health Sciences, a wholly private training institute for healthcare workers at all levels and affiliated with 16 reputed foreign universities. Then too, we have an academic in the shape and form of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Moratuwa, and he's heard quite a lot today about the disconnect between that, which is the output from the university, and the workplace. So, interesting topics that will be discussed with him. That's Professor K.K. Pereira, Vice Chancellor, University of Moratuwa. Then from industry, we have the Managing Director of Nestle Lanka PLC, and that's Shivani Hegde, who is responsible for the management of Nestle operations in this country as well as the Maldives. And interestingly, her profile includes being head of human resources for Nestle India as well as other agencies. And the moderator hardly needs any introduction in this community, Mr. Dinesh Virakodi, Chairman of the National Human Resources Development Council, the host of this event, as well as International Chamber of Commerce Sri Lanka. That is also a co-host, and he also holds several honorary advisory roles in the government of Sri Lanka, in as much as he also is the chairman of Cornucopia Sri Lanka. Well, that's as much as I need to say. So I'll hand over proceedings to Dinesh Virakodi, and he will engage with the audience as he selects at an opportune time. So we invite your close attention, and all of us can be considered stakeholders in this whole enterprise of preparing Lankans to be future ready. Isn't that what we were talking about? Yes, indeed. And of course, I omitted to mention the presence of the ambassador in the panel. Well, there he is.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. What I will do is, in the interest of time, we have about 20 minutes left. So I need to get the best out of this panel. So can I ask each panelist to maybe express their thoughts around what the High Commissioner presented, as well as some insights in 2 minutes. So can I start off with Dilrukshi?
Thank you very much. I think Ambassador mentioned a very important point, saying that we cannot copy-paste what has been successful in one country to another. It's very true. We are a very strong follower of dual training system, German dual training system, because it makes a lot of sense to us. We are in the business of trading cars and also maintaining cars. So there is a saying that the first car is sold by the salesman, but the second is sold by the workshop. So we identify automobile technology as one of our core competency in the business. So therefore, our association with Germany goes way back to 1930s, maybe even before, because our founder fathers had been working with a German gentleman called Mr. Heller. And since Mr. Heller had to return to Germany, they were unemployed and they had to start a small workshop with the skills they possessed. So it goes way back. But formally, we started our dual training system with Mr. Ranjit Panditage, the present chairman, coming back to Sri Lanka. In 1990, we started our first training facility in Colombo with the assistance of Daimler AG. And we started taking 16 students each year. And we offered 2-year diploma, 2-year certificate, which is also accredited by
These are A-level students or?
No. Initially, we recruited O-level qualified students because at that time there was a lot of unrest, a lot of unemployment, and scarcity of skills. So with the vision of the organization, we wanted to contribute to the industry. So we started this, and after 20 years, that was in 2010, we started the second in Jaffna. Even before we went into business to Jaffna, we started our vocational training. So this was actually started as a corporate social responsibility, but now we consider as sustainability because it's one of the main sources of creating a talent pipeline to the workshops. What we do here is we follow the guided self-learning system through concept cards. What does that mean? What that means is the concept cards more often includes a problem. And this is given to the students because we hardly use lecture system. And through the competent instructors, they are guided to find answers to the questions. So we provide state-of-the-art training models, best tools, and access to wide database of information. So we encourage students to research, share, and then apply to their work content. So this is 24-module system, which is taken through 12 months. The next 12 months, they will be sent to the workshops. We have an array of workshops, automobile.
So are they paid allowance during that time, or?
They are paid a small allowance, and they are given uniforms.
And they are hired from the locality.
They are hired from locality. We actually advertise. Then through a competitive examination, they are being selected. And actually, right now, this institute is headed by one German gentleman.
So do you have any affiliation to the German tech, or how does it, where do you get your technical info?
This is through, like, actually, initially it was given by Mercedes, but
Yeah.
now, of course, like, we need
Yeah.
to pay a royalty to them. That is how we get it. Actually, 3 years ago, we updated it. That is why we got down a ex-Mercedes training expert.
So just to sum up there, in the interest of time, so what you are saying, at the beginning of the year, you hire, say, how many apprentices are hired?
20 now. Earlier it
Okay.
was 16. Now 20
Okay.
each in
So
Jaffna.
it's a 2-year program.
2-year
They are
program.
provided an allowance. And
Yes.
after 2 years, all of them are recruited into the system? Or?
Not everyone,
Yeah.
because they're not bonded. So
Okay.
the first 3 we offer employment,
Yeah.
but I mean, that
Yeah.
is, it's mutual
okay.
and it's very free.
Okay. So doctor, can I move on to you because you have something similar?
Well, I'm in the business of training healthcare professionals. That includes nurses, physiotherapists, hospital administrators, and also training people for courses in the bioscience-based specialists later on. As the German ambassador pointed out, we have about maybe 50 to 60% of adequately educated A-level students who can't enter university and are just whiling away their time doing nothing and letting their brains get rusted. Well, we decided that we will train some for the healthcare industries because there's a great worldwide shortage of healthcare personnel. The population of the world is getting older, so we need more services. And with that intention in mind, we decided we'll start with nursing. And we started in 2002 with 23 students, and today we have 800 students. We are providing these trained nurses.
Are you tied up with any hospital? Or?
Yes, we use Asari Hospital as our training facility.
Okay.
And they have been very supportive.
Yeah.
So from the private sector.
Do you pay them something or is it?
No, we don't
yeah,
pay them something. So
Okay.
I think that's a show of Asari's social responsibility.
Okay.
They are contributing very heavily to train these students who get their degree, by the way, from a foreign university.
Yeah.
Not
Generally,
from my
how many do you
facility.
train for a year?
We train on average about 60. About 60.
Okay, 60.
And out of the 60, about 55 or so end up going abroad. And, I have to say that their initial salary once they go abroad after 1 year is about 5,000 to 6,000 US dollars. So this is a very lucrative market that we are exploiting. But we also have some talent here that we can channel into organizations that can train them adequately so that they can meet the foreign market requirements. And I tell you, our Sri Lankan brains are not any worse or any better than any other place. We are on equal par as long as we provide an adequate environment in which to train these students. And that's what IIHS, my facility, has done over the last 15 years. So we see that there's a need for training. We see that there's an opportunity to do that training. We see that there's a ready marketplace for it internationally. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. And we are going to expand on that even further by launching a new program today, which I'm not supposed to talk about till tomorrow. So anyway, that's the program that we have. And I think we are, in a way, helping these adequately trained students who need some guidance in how to go forward.
Shivani, can we move on to you?
Okay, so I think the issue of dual education is no longer today a matter of choice. It's clearly an imperative. And apart from the point, in addition to what Your Excellency, you talked about the issue of unemployment and underemployment, I think there are several other aspects as well that we see as the benefits that come in from a dual education system. The first, of course, being that the rapid change, the pace of change in the social and business environment that is taking place, it's very difficult for the academia and the curriculum to adapt to that change, and therefore it is very important that the students of today are brought into the real world. It's also about diversity and inclusion. I think dual education system can help us to address the issue of diversity as well. And for corporates like us, the point of bringing in the millennials into the workforce is a great way for us to bring in new thinking, new fresh insights. And today for organizations like us, over 60% of our people are millennials. Talking a little bit about Nestle's approach, and as you know, we're a Swiss company, and Your Excellency, you pointed out that the Switzerland has also adapted the dual education system. And we could see the unemployment issue being addressed there, of course, partly due to this. Nestle has launched in 2013 a program called Alliance for Youth, and our commitment is really to encourage employability of youth, and commitment was to have over 100,000 youth in, to generate employability, but also to recruit them. And similar to that, here in Sri Lanka, we launched what we call the Nestle Needs Youth Initiative in 2016. And apart from apprenticeships, apart from internships, we have about 200 interns that we've had in the company in the last 2 years alone. But it goes a little bit beyond that in terms of also using our own employees, our managers, to provide training to the students of universities. We have an alliance right now with the University of Kelaniya, where we have actually had a diploma program, and our senior management has gone out and provided training to them in our training center. So in a way, it's sort of moved into a triple education system, I would say. But that's not the only one. Of course, there are employee readiness programs about training them on writing curriculum vitae, about interviewing skills, and also women who are going out into the rural universities. We have a Women in Nestle group which goes out into the universities to train the women and encourage them to come into the workforce.
The vocational training chairman is in the audience. Is there any opportunity where Nestle's can actually tie up with the VTA in some of these programs that you're doing?
Well, certainly, I think there we have a engineering training program where we do get in engineers into the organization. They work in our factory. Sort of a tie-up with the vocational institutes would be something that could be in that specific area as well, or food science or areas like that.
Do you currently run your own school, or how does it happen?
No, we don't have a separate school. We have training that happens through our HR team in our own office, as well as on the shop floor as well in the factory.
Okay. Professor, can we move on to you? I think unlike most other universities, I think I got your model right. But in terms of vocational training, I think we have a long way to go. What advice do you offer?
Yeah, what the ambassador mentioned about you need to make sure that you cannot be static anymore. You have to be dynamic. And the very rigid system of admissions to start with at the University Grants Commission, still we managed to provide this dual training to university students. If you talk about the medicine, engineering, accountancy, even the humanities and performing arts, all these degree programs, they all have the dual training component, where specifically the professional degrees, the quantity surveying, architecture, all these programs, there is a mandatory component of industrial training coordinated by NITA. We need to see how effective that is. What is the participation of the private sector? What skill set that they demand from these students who are coming out?
Do they get an allowance during this industry placement?
Some right now, some of the private sector people, they offer, they come and select students, and they interview students and they pay an allowance, but not much. There is a gap there, and I picked up from the ambassador that there is a payment involved by the government. And the government is basically taking the burden of this one, that is to be there. And when it comes to the career guidance and the staff development, he says that you need to have best teachers, best lecturers to ensure that you produce best students. I believe in this one, that is very correct. And then the University Grants Commission has set up standing committees on career guidance and also staff development to build the capacity of the lecturers who are just joining and provide opportunities. These arms are there. Then again, there is a participation from the industry. That is through the professional bodies and also the industry consultative bodies, where the industry representatives are there in terms of, in the faculty boards and also in the councils. Most of them are from the industry, private sector, both public sector, renowned people, and they give their inputs. And then you are required to accredit your degree programs when it comes to especially engineering, architecture, quantity surveying, IT, the medicine. I know if unless otherwise you are not, your degree program is accredited by the Washington Accord or any other, the SLUSCOM or the REBA, all these accreditations are required, and there will be a foreign examiner who is coming. And unless otherwise your degree program is accredited, that is not recognized, and people don't want to come for this.
The ambassador actually raised an important point. He said you need to get rid of some of the outdated, archaic courses. How are you meeting that challenge, given the laws that are in place?
That is the bit of a difficult question, but the government has taken initiatives. For example, in the technology stream, we are 20 years behind into this one, where the ILO and the UNESCO has introduced and the US took on 20 years ago, and we are into this one. Only thing is, when we introduce something, our people, the perception is that he says that, okay, you always want a degree, right? Degree in this particular field. And this myth has to be taken away, and we need the attitudinal change in this one. He says that the German government is taking initiatives, for example, industry people versus the bakers, right? It has to do with the nature of the work that you do, nature of the professions that you are engaged. You don't want to wake up in the morning, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then you don't need to go to bed late night. So these attitudinal changes and also the participation from the industry has to be there. Industry should take the nurture the apprenticeships, paying, and then have a proper training guidelines. What skill sets that they want. If it is construction industry, I know that they are active engagement in modifying the curriculum, give the inputs. So these kind of things are there for the need to be there for the universities to upgrade. But opportunities are there, because we cannot, unlike those days, for example, let's say law, even the law, forensic, IP, or I don't know those things, but criminal, all these professional inputs should come from the industry to reshape the curriculum. Opportunities are there.
Ambassador, can I ask you a question? You highlighted the need to give more recognition to blue-collar workers. How Germany has got it right. Can you offer some advice how we can do this here?
No, it's difficult for me to give advice, but it has to do also with payment. Let me take a hospital, which you mentioned. When my daughter just graduated from university, she's now, starting her career as a doctor. I don't know, she starts with a salary of, before taxes, 4,000. A nurse starts with a salary of, before taxes, maybe short 2,000. So it's double. I don't know how much the difference is here between a doctor and a nurse. Is it double? Is it 10 times? Is it 5 times? So it's the kind of value what you attach, because the nurse is a 3-year training here too, no? Yeah. But in Germany it's 3 years, and it's a very demanding job. So what do you pay? And what do you pay? That's what you get. And the second thing I really want to highlight again is the participation of industry. For example, everybody complains about not having enough qualified people in the hospitality industry. When a new hotel comes up, people are poached from a hotel because they pay 5,000 more. If the industry comes together and puts up training schools, then maybe it's, because if there's only one person to train people, of course, the others just do a beggar my neighbor policy. They would take out of these 20 graduates, because they can pay one much more, because it wouldn't, the hotel itself who trains the people cannot kill the salary structure, because in hospitality in Germany and everywhere, it's never the highest salaries compared to industry. So I think there needs to be a common approach. If you provide, if you put in more, if you put in an effort, let's say, you know, the hotel industry together with the state puts up a school, more and more trained people come out, then everybody profits. I know it's easy to say, but island solutions always have the problem that then you have a beggar my neighbor policy, or what you said. I mean, nothing against, I would do the same. People move abroad. I've heard that 60% or half the biggest alumni of German tech are in Melbourne, no? Or in Sydney. So it shows the quality is there. The disadvantage is they can't find enough opportunities at home. And that, of course, the educational system cannot change. That needs to be the general economic environment.
Doctor, one of the biggest issues we have is teaching quality, especially in the vocational training system. Well, what are some of the suggestions?
Well, we have been lucky that we have been able to recruit people who studied abroad because their husbands were there on long-term assignments and stuff like that. They came back to Sri Lanka with a very, very good foreign degree, but were not accepted by the local people. So they were basically unemployed, and we found that there were so many of them, they were just willing to come and donate their time. They were not interested in money. They wanted to help. So we were very lucky in being able to find such people. Now, one of the issues with healthcare providers is that we have to at some point get a government license. So it's kind of regulated at some point. And if the regulatory bodies are not thinking futuristically and they are too conservative, then the system gets bogged down. Now, our school, our products, we are really not getting government approval, but they're all finding top jobs abroad, and their starting salaries are 30 times what the starting salary of a nurse here in Sri Lanka is. So the opportunities are there, and if you train them well with good teachers, then you get a better product and automatically give you a better social recognition. Thank you.
Professor, I have a question from you. We have 1 point, I think the ambassador also referred to the tuk-tuk drivers. We have about 1.2 million doing this. How do we get some of these people back into industry?
I think best thing is to make sure that provide career guidance. They need to make sure that unless otherwise you have hands-on skills, you cannot survive. As the German ambassador very correctly said, in the midst of the Chinese rising up, they survived because they had the people with skills. So we need to make sure the policy should be in place, either regulate the tuk-tuk drivers with the age cohort with some qualifications. You cannot just say that, okay, you have a tuk-tuk and I buy a tuk-tuk, son, you go on the road. You cannot do this one. You need to make sure that there is a tertiary and vocational education commission. And under this, they are registered. They need to be registered. They need to get even to the professional driving skills. Not only the professional driving skills, the attitudes, the discipline, all these things. And then he said about the accounting, you know, the drivers with, or the masons or the bakers with accountancy skills. So we need to make sure the government and the public, the private sector jointly should take on these drivers and give them, in addition to the driving skills, just a tuk-tuk driver to be facilitated or build the capacity in other areas. The Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission and the Vocational Training Authority, Ministry of Youth Skills should have a special program to train them for multi-skill jobs. Okay, in the US, I remember there was a boom of the IT industry. Most of the graduates, just before graduating, they went to the industry. When it failed, they did not come back to university because their curriculums that they had gone through the undergraduate program, they were trained and their skills were suited to quick adaptability. At least the German ambassador mentioned about the importance of the language skills. How many the tuk-tuk drivers can give a tour guide? And their honesty, all these qualities, we need to have a special program, and they need to be get registered with the Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission. Should have a different arm to address this one, and will train them for different skills.
Two final questions before I open it up. On this question of the role of the private sector, how can the private sector actually work with the Tibet sector to try and make these courses more relevant, and also to offer some other apprenticeship opportunities for these young people who are joining the Tibet sector? Because often the complaint is the private sector is not doing enough. Now, for example, she was saying we are doing only 25. He's doing about 80. Right? I think altogether we may be doing about 1,000.
Can I make a correction?
Yeah.
Even though in the school we take 20 of an intake, at any given time in the organization we have about 225 trainees. That is all over from NITA and any other vocational training institute.
Well, I think if organizations were to get together and address this, and that's the way it has been approached even in Europe, for example, where companies have got together and formed an alliance to work towards providing internships and training, it could certainly make a big contribution there. I think on the point of the tuk-tuk drivers, I think if we can get them to see the value of jobs by putting them into assignments where they would be able to take on assignments other than those roles, then that's a great way for us to get the underemployment issue also resolved.
Am I permitted to share an interesting case study about tuk-tuk drivers? Actually it was last year. The chairman was quite passionate about getting these tuk-tuk drivers involved in vocational training, and then myself together with my team, actually we went around Colombo together with police. We got hold of about 200 tuk-tuk drivers, got down to our facility, the Mercedes Center, educated them of the opportunities they have, and then we selected about 20 and we funded them to study automobile mechatronics at Japanese Tech. They only had to attend one class per week. So we had 20 at the beginning. The first day we had about 15. After 3 weeks, it was 3. And after a month, it was just 1. And even that one dropped off. So this was a very genuine effort that we made from the side.
So it's a cultural issue actually.
It's a cultural issue, and also I think that is they're the breadwinners. They need to drop their children in the. There's a lot of social aspect attached to it, I guess.
If you give me a minute about tuk-tuk drivers, we did a survey once and found that more than 90% of the time, people find transport to a hospital either after an accident or some issue at home by tuk-tuks. So our school decided to educate tuk-tuk drivers on how to identify injured people and how to act at an accident site. And we taught them CPR and basic first aid. It was well received by the tuk-tuk drivers in our area, so much so that the police came and wanted us to help them to set up such a program.
Before I close, any questions from the audience? Yeah, I will take one from the VTA chairman first.
The discussion to more vibrant mode. Now we have been listening to the panel discussion and the inputs came. Now I am the chairman of the Vocational Training Authority, that our training cycle per year is around 30,000 per annum. And we have got a system distributed all over the country amounting to about 250 institutions. And Your Excellency, you mentioned that you have been planning to bring up another training center for us in Mathura. That has been under discussion. But my point is that on the topic, we should have more better relationship between the training institutes and the industry. At the moment, in the country, we don't have sufficient industry. So then how do we match this? So one of the plan is to bring the industry into the system, training institutes, that we are planning. Because if we don't address this problem, this recurring problem over and over again, how do you match with how you take these trainees into the industry? The industry, now you're talking about few people, about say 50, 60 like that. But whereas we are only about 30,000 students in different trades, which are very, very useful, and those add value to the country's industry. So how do you match this? I think we want to answer from the panel. I consider this a very good panel to discuss and get answer for that problem. And the other point that Your Excellency mentioned, is the acceptance of the blue collar job in your country, whereas it's not so in this our case. So there is a social problem, attitude problem that got to be solved. And other thing is the stipend for the proper trained personnel. It's also not so. So there are a range of problems that we have to address in this system. I think these fervent problems are to be addressed. Otherwise, this problem wouldn't be solved, because the vice chancellor is here next to me in the university system. That is our apex body. Now we are addressing to the NVQ system level from 1 to 7. The level 7 is the degree level, that is the vertical mobility, where his university award the degrees. And whereas Vocational Training Authority is involved up to level 5 and level 6 in that system. Our main problem is industrial matching. You mentioned there is a living organism between these two industries. Whereas in your country there are so many industries, therefore there is opportunity for the people to go there. But whereas in our country there is a problem. Therefore this mismatch occurs. How do you address this? Could I have answer for that? Because it's a very important problem, and that we need answer for that.
I'm Chandra Ambuldania. I think this industry mismatch between the education system and the training authorities has been there for a very long time. But I'd like to draw attention to what the ambassador mentioned, that it is the chambers that really give the final approval to the apprentices who are being trained by these authorities. Actually, I think, now that you have opened the can of worms, I must really mention this, that what I really hear from the industry when I go visiting. Recently, I did evaluate about 50 SMEs where they have recruited people from various government training authorities as well. And I found that their complaint was about the quality of training from our training authorities. And therefore, there is a general reluctance from our industries to recruit people from our government training system. That is why actually demos have set up their own training, and they have a large alumni today, I find, in all the spread throughout the country. And then also, the flexibility and the rigid regulatory system, all that was mentioned here. I think, we really need to open eyes. I was chairman of the Tertiary Vocational Education Commission for some time, so I know exactly that the system is failing. We need to change. If you don't really change, we will be stuck in this mud forever. Thank you.
Just to add to that, because I'm involved in a chamber, I think the biggest challenge we have is the courses that you deliver are not appreciated by the private sector. So unless you change that, this system is not going to work. So that's why the Prime Minister a couple of months ago suggested some of your schools that are being run by the VTA, whether there is an opportunity to hand over some of these to the private sector. I think you are in the loop. So maybe you can comment. Yeah,
the situation is the quantity and the quality. Our main problem is, as quite right you said, we have got so many institutes which are not quality bounded, but we talk about the quantities.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be, and we have got our infrastructure is so large. Probably just we are in the process of participating or trying to find out mechanisms to work with the private sector or to use these facilities in more productive manner. But our dilemma of the quality and the quantity, we have to stop. We have to produce the quality people, not the number of quantities. We are telling that we have got so many institutes. That's not the situation. We have to have few centers of excellencies where that we respond to the industry. That is we should do. As quite right you point out, we will have to take a decision on this. We have to produce quality people who would become employable in the industry.
So my question to you is, are we in that direction right now?
We are in that direction, but we have to start in dynamic manner in achieving the final results. We have to do that. At the government, we will have to take a decision, initiative on this.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't give advice how to adapt the local system. But what I was trying to say is, I think not only in Sri Lanka, it's the same in the US or in Canada. There are two systems in different orbits. There's the private sector and there's the public sector. In Germany, because of it's more a corporate system. In Germany, the industry is in the system. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to hand over in our system the public vocational school to the private sector, because the private sector knows what is taught at the school because they are designing the curricula. And the school knows what is taught in the company because they always meet on boards. So our system, which cannot be easily transported, not even to the United States or Canada, the whole industry sector is more in a cooperative. I mean, when you are on the board of Mercedes or BMW or BASF, half of the board members are from trade unions. That's our law. Every company, publicly listed company in Germany, has to have employee representatives. They know how the finances of the company are. And this corporate structure descends into all spheres of society. You meet all the time, so you know where to go forward. And I think that is a challenge, and that I cannot give advice. I can only say it works for us, that you have it's an osmosis. You know, the private sector is part, and then you don't have to hand over, but you always continuously adapt the system.
Since this whole thing is getting captured, I would actually, before I get to this, maybe we should listen to the former president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, where you have about 60,000-70,000 students.
Thank you. I think you are touching the right point. The training is vital. We need to produce employable graduates. I mean, it's dynamic. You need to keep on changing, not once in 5 years. I think every 2 to 3 years' time, we need to revise our curriculum to meet the needs of the industry. And I think, to come to his point, yes, why the companies are not taking them for the training? I will give you a good example. We had underwater welders, right? Where is the opportunity for them to train? We had Colombo Dockyard. I think 500 to 600 trainees were taken once a year, 5 to 10 years ago. Is it happening now? Why it is so? Who is responsible? We need to have a policy set by the government or by chambers or the industry. They have to train at least minimum number of skilled people per annum. We have manufacturing companies like tile industry, steel industry, whatever it is. We need to give them, look here, you got to train at least 500 to 300 people per annum every year. They also will pay, the government also will pay, as the ambassador said. I think we had similar system, if I am not mistaken. We had a similar system where the government as well as the private sector pays the trainees. We had this good system. I don't know where things have gone wrong. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity, Dinesh. As a past industrialist hotelier, I used to envy the NITA. We ran 50% of our workshop with NITA trainees. One of the biggest drawbacks was disciplining them. So the Vocational Training Authority has to instill discipline in those guys first. Our biggest task was getting them to come on time, working on company regulations and principles. Once we broke them, they were good. Some we employed, some we made them entrepreneurs. Likewise in the hotel industry also, we use a lot of them. Biggest drawback is attitude, because they come, they want the training, and the next day they want to go to Middle East. But without that attitude break, we can't do it. I have done training I addressed university final year students. And when after the address, I asked them, what do you want to be in life? All of them want to be employees. None of them want to be entrepreneurs. At one occasion at the University of Kelaniya, I asked them, who is the richest person in this world? Some of them didn't know. I asked them, you came through some place to come here. What was it? They didn't know. Then I said, gateway then Bill Gates. Like that, the general knowledge of our people is zero now. So we need attitude change. I have a training company, and we get invited, my best trainer gets invited by schools to train teachers. Teachers have no attitude or training or teaching. That has become a job. They just come, take the textbook, you learn or get out, come for my tuition class. We need attitude change in this country of the people. That's what we have to do. So senior citizens like me, we are doing it, but I would like the junior citizens also to come forward and make an attitude change in this country. 70 years we have done nothing. Under the Suddha, we did very well. Suddha went, we are still in the Amude running around. So let's go back to the trouser and get that thing going, otherwise we are lost.
Okay, so we'll have the final word from the chairman of the Institute of Directors.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I think I must first commend you for a very excellent presentation. It was not only the substance, I think more of the delivery. I think it was so lucid and clear. I think you delivered it better than Englishman. My simple question to you, if you can depict one of the charts that you put up here on the labor market statistics of the youth unemployment rates, there was a broad black line at the 25% state. So is that the norm? Because there were Greece and Spain was surpassing that, but the rest of the countries, I don't know where we are. What does that 25-degree black line signifies?
It's right that you mentioned there was a thicker black line, but actually it's just because of the design of the presentation. It's not part of the graph. It's part of the...
No, that is the mode. That's the mode.
I mean, as I said, I put just some selected developed countries to show what kind of positive effect skilling has, even in economies which are running hot now, developed economies like Canada, US. The youth unemployment is much higher because the entrance level, is much higher, because you have to pay a full salary even for untrained people. In Germany, there's this contract for apprentices. You pay lower, and you get in exchange for the apprentice, you get a very good education. So for 3 years, you are paid below average. When you start in France and the US work, you get a full salary, but totally untrained. So companies want to be very sure before they hire somebody. In Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Luxembourg, the risk is lower because you pay less, and then you can see how this person is.
So thank you. In the interest of time, I had to close this beer. So thank you very much. Thank you.
I believe there is going to be a handover of tokens of appreciation to His Excellency the Ambassador as well as our panelists. So may we call upon those who are responsible for that to quickly proceed with the handover of those tokens of appreciation. So here's Ms. Veerakodi handing over a token of appreciation to Jon Rode, His Excellency the Ambassador for Germany. Thank you. And we have also our other panelists. It's been done very quickly and alacritiously, so